Howdy, Ags. I'm Kyle McClinigan, the multimedia editor for the Battalion. Today is Thursday, February 10th, and welcome to this week's episode of the Bat Signal. Up first, in recent weeks, the organization known as God the Mother has become a topic of discussion among students as the group that presents itself as a simple Bible study is feared to be something more sinister. Here to talk more about the situation is Aubrey Vogel, the news editor who's investigating the story. Thanks for being with us, Aubrey.
Thanks for having me, Kyle.
Yeah, so what were you able to find out about God the Mother?
The God the Mother Church is actually just supposed to be like an organization that, believes in God the Mother and God the Father, though we weren't able to directly contact any of them because there are no groups directly affiliated in College Station that we've been able to find, and we were given no names. But what we found out is they're kind of going door to door and approaching people on campus to invite them to their Bible study. But out of most of the students we've seen, they've been young females, and the people that are coming up to them have also been females, in their mid 20s or, around that. That's what they estimate them to be. And so they're walking up to them and, talking to them about what their denomination is and stuff like that. But they're also inviting them to the Bible study group, though. The two females that we were talking to said that, they didn't give a lot of information, but more so just kind of, all right, like, this is who we are, come to this Bible study group, but little information other than that.
Okay. Very interesting. So I've seen online, like, a bunch of people are speculating that the group is actually some kind of religious cult trying to recruit new members on campus. Does that appear to be the case?
So what it appears to be is just another church group. We're not sure what direct church they're associated with, but it appears to just be people looking for members of a Bible study or Bible group.
Okay. And you said you were able to speak with some students who were approached by the group. What exactly did they have to say about it, if anything?
So originally we found out about the group due to a GroupMe post that kind of circulated social media over the past couple days. And so the girl who posted the GroupMe post, Corrine, she actually, kind of posted and said, like, this is my experience. Like, I thought this was kind of weird. They approached me while I was at my job in the MSC. I was a little nervous. They asked for my phone number. And that's whenever the rumor kind of got out about it being sex trafficking. And so, other people have come forward to us and said, hey, that same kind of thing happened to me. And we had another psychology junior, Abby Morris, say that, she had another uncomfortable experience when she was sitting on a bench near the psychology building. And it was kind of the same thing of, like, two people approached her, invited her to Bible study, asked for her phone number. And both are saying that they felt really, like, uncomfortable in the situation, felt a little weird, and felt that something was off. And so neither did go to the Bible study. And so far, they just caution, other students to, be cautious of what's happening. But also, I know at least Peterson reported it to the UPD here on campus.
Okay. And has there been any confirmed link to sex trafficking? I know you mentioned, I guess before we started recording, that the College Station Police had released kind of a statement about it.
Yeah, so UPD Lieutenant Bobby Richardson actually said in a statement to us that they've received 6 reports where students have been contacted, approached by individuals claiming to be with the God the Mother Church. Though it's reported that there might be ties to human trafficking because of things that we're seeing on social media at other schools, such as Baylor, UPD is saying that they have seen no evidence linked to human trafficking on campus and there's no criminal offense that's occurred. And, same thing on other universities. At Baylor, their student newspaper reported that their police department also said that there were no cases of sexual trafficking that they were able to see. But Lieutenant Richardson encourages individuals who, are, or if they know someone who are a victim of human trafficking, to report it to the police immediately.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Aubrey.
Perfect. Thank you.
Up next, in lighter news, I'm joined with our news editor and Layne's connoisseur, Michaela Rush, to discuss something exciting coming to Aggieland's famous chicken restaurant chain. Thanks for being with us, Michaela.
Yeah, absolutely. Always happy to talk about some delicious chicken fingers.
So what is the update and why is it so important?
Yeah, so a local favorite, Best of Aggieland 2021, actually. Layne's Chicken Fingers just announced on the 6th that they are going to be having spicy chicken fingers drop soon at their entire chain. And it's really exciting because they've actually already launched them at a lot of their locations, and College Station is next on the list to get these delicious new bites.
Okay, awesome. And for the uninitiated, what makes Layne so important?
So one of my favorite things about Layne's is that it is an Aggie-owned and operated business, which is why it was voted best Aggie-owned restaurant for this past year. It's a really cool story, and if you go on their website, you can get more specific information. But the current owner and operator is a former student, and it's been here in College Station since 1994. So it's been around at least the entire time my parents were in school here. So it's a really cool Aggie tradition, and of course, the Lanes versus Canes debate continues to rage on, so it'll be interesting to see how the spicy chicken finger drop will impact that.
Yeah. So, I guess where do you fall on that debate for Lanes or Canes?
So, this is really hard because as a person who does some stuff in Read Arena, I have quite frequently gotten coupons for free canes. And let me tell you, it's delicious. But if you're really looking for more of like a full meal, not just the chicken tenders, you're looking for some great fries, if you're looking for some bomb peppery sauce, I think Lane's what you got to go with. On top of that, I'm also a huge local business supporter. I love local businesses, so anytime I can go, especially to somewhere that has such delicious offerings, I'm really more of a Lane's gal myself.
Okay, good to know. So, what has the talk on social media been like around this topic?
Oh yeah, everyone has been super excited. In fact, some people did even mention the spicy chicken fingers in their the Lanes versus Canes debate. Mike Oxafloppin responded and said, "Game changer in the Lanes versus Canes debate." Lots of people retweeting it. Someone else said, Dusty Robe said, "This is honestly one of the most exciting things I've ever heard." And then some other comments that expressed excitement with some four-letter words that I will not read on this podcast.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and bringing some, I guess, more fun news to the podcast.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me.
For our final story, I'd like to introduce Ruben Hernandez, a life and arts critic for the Battalion who recently wrote about art reactionism. Welcome to the show, Ruben.
Hello.
So, when writing the script for today's show, I actually Googled art reactionism to try and get a better understanding of it, and was surprised to see that your article on thebat.com was actually the first thing to come up. I guess I wanted to first ask, what is art reactionism?
I think by its name, it's just as simple as it seems. It's the basic and upfront reaction to art within the first seconds that we view it or just experience it. I came up with the term in order for me to better understand the concept of how we react to art. It's something new to me, so I really had to process it and understand it in my own terms because I really wasn't seeing it within any other outside sources. So it's something that I had to come up in order to understand it.
Okay, great. So you actually came up with the term yourself?
Yes,
Okay, awesome. That's really cool. In your article, you talked about how an artist's morality can sometimes affect how their art is interpreted by the public. Can a morally corrupt artist create objectively good art? And how does morality play into the concept of good art?
I do believe that morally corrupt artists can objectively create good art. It's something hard to overlook, but as I recently defined art reactionism, just by the first few seconds, we will subconsciously react to that art, whether it's positive or negative. One great example of such art from a not necessarily morally corrupt, but just morally impoverished person would have to be the Great Rembrandt. To quote the Rembrandt historian Gary Schwartz, quote, "What emerges is an unpleasant character, a cantankerous man who, at least on one occasion, showed extraordinary cruelty." I am a great fan of Rembrandt. I believe that his art is beautiful and just moving. The way he depicts such characters and scenarios is just amazing. But once you really look into his life and how he basically fell from grace, as I said earlier, it's hard to overlook. But just seeing his art moves the spirit so much.
hmm And for those who, I guess, don't know about him, how did he fall from grace? If you could just quickly go over that.
The way Rembrandt fell from grace was that by his early years, early actually into his career, by when he was 23, he was very sought after for his portraits. And because of that, he started flaunting his wealth a lot in his self-portraits. And he basically elevated himself in his career a little bit too much. So he couldn't even handle his own success. He started losing customers. He wasn't finishing any commissions or even starting them. So he was starting to fall majorly into debt. He even tried to place his debt onto his only son, which was 14 years old, and he failed to do so, and he was actually evicted from his house. So if you saw the early depictions of himself in his self-portraits, he was flaunting his wealth. He was carrying sabers, wearing, beautiful materials, posing with his wife. And when he started doing self-portraits around his 40s, later on into his career, when he quote unquote fell from grace, he's depicting himself in a very somber and simplistic tone with a dark background, not showing any real emotion, just showing a sort of maturity from a hard fall from grace.
Okay. And so you also discuss that an individual's reaction to a work greatly influences their opinion on it. So do you think beauty is really in the eye of the beholder, or can we truly universally categorize art into good and bad categories?
Now, this is a very interesting question because objectively, there will be good and bad art. As I said before, once you see an image within the first few seconds, you might react to it in any way possible. You might stare in awe and, you know, imagine yourself within that scenario and or see yourself in that position of a person in a portrait, or you could flinch or sometimes even just retch on such horrible depictions of whatever may be depicted upon a painting. But beauty comes from the appreciation of the viewer. Those who look for beauty will find beauty, no matter how exaggerated within its horridness or beauty it may seem. If the viewer wants to look at it within a perspective of beauty, they will find that beauty.
Is there any particular reason for choosing to write this article now? Was there anything, I guess, that inspired you to put this article out?
I would have to say that my communication religion arts class really influenced the making of this article. We were discussing on how people react to art, and I really want to touch upon that furthermore. But also just me being new to the battalion and being a new art criticism writer, I'm challenging myself into looking into new perspectives that even I haven't even considered in the past. I'm trying to push my own boundaries and what I perceive as art, because back then I would automatically deem any art that I didn't like as bad and the art that I did like as good. And now I'm trying to shift that perspective in a way that I can appreciate all forms of art within their own uniqueness.
Okay, so kind of going into that, for my final question, I kind of wanted to ask a big one or a kind of complicated one. But given that your article is about defining art, when it really comes down to it, what is art?
The definition of art is really tricky. You can't, just write one sentence and then say this is art and, have a room full of art critics look at it and say, yep, that is art. Whenever I think of art and try to fit it within a definition, the one that always comes to mind, a quote by Banksy, quote, art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable, unquote. It's so true to what it means. It can challenge the viewer, it can please the viewer, it can create so many, reactions. And I think art is just a reaction. It's an experience.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us today, Ruben.
Thank you for having me here.
That's all for this week's episode. For more news, visit thebat.com or pick up a copy of our print edition on campus. Also, be sure to check out our new sports podcast, Home Turf, wherever you get your podcast. This week's contributors are Aubrey Vogel, Michaela Rush, and Ruben Hernandez, with a special thanks to Justin Romack. This episode was produced and edited by Kyle McClanahan.